who desired this went to Enoch, and Enoch reigned over the sons of men according to the word of the Lord, and they came and bowed to him, and they heard his word. Revival. And the Spirit of God was upon Enoch, and he taught all his men the wisdom of God, his ways, and the sons of men served the Lord all the days of Enoch, and they came to hear his wisdom. And this is the righteous remnant that is talked about there's a lot of other books, Jewish books that come back to us, the books of Adam and Eve, the forgotten books of Eden that chronicle so clearly with so much information, the early times, especially before the flood and especially with Adam and Eve, and a lot. And all the kings of the sons of men, both first and last, together with their princes and judges, came to Enoch when they heard of his wisdom. And they bowed down to him, and they required of Enoch to reign over them, to which he consented. And they all assembled together 130 kings and princes, and they made Enoch king over them, and they were all under his power and command. And Enoch taught them wisdom, knowledge, and the ways of the Lord. He made peace amongst them, because this is what true Torah teaching and living will have peace amongst yourselves. And peace was throughout the earth during the life of Noah. Don't let anybody kid you. God is all about living in a peaceable kingdom, and it is possible. And Enoch reigned over the sons of men 243 years, and he did justice and righteousness with all his people, and he led them in the ways of the Lord. It says, and he did in this manner for many years, and afterward concealed himself again for 6 days, and appeared to his people one day in 7, and then to once a month, and then once in a year, until all the kings and princes sought him and desired him again to see the face of Enoch and to hear his word. But they could not, as all the sons of men were greatly afraid of Enoch, and they feared to approach him on account of the godlike awe that was seated upon his countenance. Therefore no man could look upon him, fearing that he might be punished. The Shekinah glory, just like in Moses, came down from the mountain after being alone with the Lord, meditating upon it, and receiving instruction from the angels in Torah principles. There's nothing, the storyline doesn't really change. I don't know why people have problems with it. And in some time, we're speaking to Enoch. Well, let's see. I wanted to go over here. It says, when at that time Enoch heard this, he went and assembled all the inhabitants. Let me just read this. And in some time after, when the kings and princes and the sons of men were speaking to Enoch, and Enoch was teaching them the ways of God, behold, an angel of the Lord then called unto Enoch from heaven, and wished to bring him up to heaven and make him reign there over the sons of God, as he had reigned over the sons of men upon earth. When at that time Enoch heard this, he went and assembled all the inhabitants of the earth and taught them wisdom and knowledge and gave them divine instructions. And he said to them, I have been required to ascend into heaven. I therefore do not know the day of my going. Now, you might have a problem with a little bit of the language, but what's the difference? Fleshing it out a little bit more than Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him. Well, where'd he take him? You gotta... Okay, and he taught them wisdom and knowledge. Again, wisdom. These are all the constant repetition of these are the word God will give. Wisdom, knowledge, instruction, understanding. He placed before them statutes and judgments, and he made peace amongst them. And he taught them everlasting life and dwelt with them, sometime teaching all these things. And all the sons of men assembled and came to Enoch that day. Now this is the day he's going to get taken up. And all the kings of the earth with their princes and counselors remained with him that day. And Enoch then taught the sons of men again, wisdom, knowledge. It's over and over. If the guy wrote 365 books, everything that he wrote, or that he received instruction on. And it was after this that he rose up and rode upon the horse, and he went forth, and all of the sons of men after him, about 800,000 men. I love when Hollywood tries to make out like these are just like little lone rangers on the planet. I guess what it is very prolific. God said to go forth and multiply, and people multiplied, and people were living in a peaceable kingdom back before the flood. It must have been unbelievable. All right, and on the second day he said to them, return home to your tents, Perhaps you shouldn't really go on with me. And some of them went from him, and those that remained went with him 6 days' journey. And Enoch said to them every day, return to your tents, lest you may die. But they were not willing to return, and they went with him. And on the 6th day, some of the men remained and clung to him. And they said to him, we will go with thee to the place where thou goest. As the Lord liveth, only death shall separate us. And they urged so much to go with him that he ceased speaking to them, and they went after him and would not return. So these people obviously loved Enoch, didn't want him to leave, and actually were hoping to get on the boat too, I guess. And when the kings returned, they caused a census to be taken in order to know the number of remaining men that went with Enoch. And it was upon the 7th day that Enoch ascended into heaven in a whirlwind, with the horse and chariots of fire. And on the 8th day, all the kings that had been with Enoch sent to bring back the number of men that had been with Enoch in that place from which he had ascended. Now that's exactly, Elijah went up in a whirlwind. But see, what we have to start to wrap our mind around when you get into the book of Enoch, we're not in Kansas. You don't call a whirlwind in Enoch's world, or in God's world, like a whirlwind out in Kansas. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, we're not in Kansas. We've never really been in Kansas. We have to start to wrap our mind. These people live, by the way, up to almost 1,000 years. In 1,000 years, you'll die. Adam lived 930 years. Methuselah, his son, oldest man that ever lived, was, I think, 943, I think, when he died. These are not normal people. If you have genetics that can keep you going, reproducing, having kids at 400, that's what the texts are saying. We have to wrap our mind around this stuff. It's possible. Besides, all right, I can almost tell I'm losing my voice a little bit. Okay, I just want to read this one part. All the days that Enoch did live upon the earth were 365 years. And when Enoch had ascended into heaven, all the kings of the earth rose and took Methuselah, his son, and anointed him. And they caused him to reign over them in the place of his father. Methuselah acted uprightly in the sight of God, as his father Enoch had taught him. And he likewise, during the whole of his life, taught the sons of men wisdom, knowledge, the fear of God. And he did not turn from the good way either to the right or to the left. He taught everything that his father had taught. But, and this is where the storyline starts to go south, but in the latter days of Methuselah, the sons of men turned from the Lord. They corrupted the earth. They robbed and plundered each other. They rebelled against God, and they transgressed, and they corrupted their ways, and they would not hearken to the voice of Methuselah, and rebelled against him. This is where the whole thing begins to go south, and it leads up to the flood. But see, I can even say this again, we're not in Kansas. This is not normal plundering. This is not just being kind of bad people, okay? This is totally and complete rebellion. And when you read Enoch, you'll get a little bit of a hint of how bad and out of control this thing had gotten. I have to just, again, you have to, when you read Enoch, it is highly apocryphal in parts. Parts of it are perfectly spelled out. So when he gets into talking about the watcher angels and their incursion, people have to understand that we are not, I don't want to keep saying that. There have been, this is some of, and this knowledge is available to people today, okay? So one of the real things that that really bothers me, I have to go on my short little soapbox for a second. This whole concept of groupthink. The evangelical mind, there's a book, The Scandal of the Evangelical Mind, is that the evangelicals don't have a mind. They don't think deep enough. They don't ask questions. This is groupthink. This is so much of church life. I have nothing to do. Any tradition that tries to squelch the truth. Groupthink is a psychological phenomena that occurs within a group of people in which the desire for harmony or conformity in the group results in an irrational or dysfunctional decision-making outcome. Group members try to minimize conflict and reach a consensus decision without critical evaluation of alternative viewpoints. Critical evaluation of alternative viewpoints. By actively suppressing dissenting viewpoints and by isolating themselves from outside influence. This is unfortunately the story of church history. It's a very sad, sad story. And I just have you to knock yourselves upside the head and knock it off. Outside of, God gave us a mind. New Testament believer has the mind of Christ, has no excuse, and with the Holy Spirit for not being able to discern truth. No excuse. And we live in a critical time where the enemy has so boxed us into a corner. We do not have the necessary information to really assess what is going on, why our world is crumbling as quickly as it is. Because we don't really understand. It's all about what a principality of power, spiritual wickedness, woo, what are dominions, what are thrones, what are angels, what are these things? Oh, let's just keep it all. Had no clue. The ancient world totally understood, totally interfaced. The war for good or evil amongst this whole was totally played out in the open. We have totally shoved it into a a box that sits on a shelf that isn't even, so whatever. That's my little soapbox. Now, the first parable of Enoch. So Enoch is very apocryphal, but see, we're the ones that have the problem. We're the ones that don't understand how to interpret apocryphal language. It's not that hard. And like anyone who wants to be a well-read biblical person should be able to pick up on apocryphal wording. But there's some beautiful things in there, because one of the things is that Enoch does say the last generation, it's going to change on a dime. The wicked are going to be no more. He talks about in the last generation, the saints who live during the time of the harvest, when the wicked will be no more. I mean, we live in a great time. The first parable, now this is from the book of Enoch. I just want to give you some of the language, because first of all, it's loaded with Yahushua HaMashiach language of the Messiah. Jesus is all over this stuff, the Son of Man. The story, and you will hear, it's like I first started in Jeremiah, where the Lord is going to roar. This language, Jeremiah, they get this language from Enoch. It's antecedent. It predates it. It's older. They're tracking with the same storyline. I mean, I don't have a problem with somebody telling the same story in their own words. Okay, first parable. When the congregation of the just shall appear. This is the last days. This is who we are. You got to understand the word just and the word elect can be used interchangeably. When the congregation of the just shall appear, and the sinners are condemned because of their sins and expelled from the face of the earth. And I'll tell you a little secret. This is not just, we're not talking about bad people, people who sin. There's a difference between iniquity and sin. We are talking about now the chief kings and princes of the world, the rulers of the world. We've gone from 3% of the population, elite cabal, owning 90% of the resources and the money in the world, and just calling the shots. And it's a very serious situation today. If you just get yourself educated, people. It's a very serious situation. It's not the first time it's been done. But this time, the outcome is going to be very different. So they're going to get expelled from the face of the earth. And when the just one shall appear in the presence of the just who are chosen. Did you get that? The just one is Jesus. Shall appear in the presence of the just who are chosen, whose deeds hang on the Lord of spirits. That's how they refer to the Father. Enoch calls him the Lord of the spirits. It's your body ain't going to heaven. It's your spirit. You come to reclaim your spirit, your soul. You will get a new body. But what's really at stake here is your soul and your spirit. And people, we've got to begin to understand how powerful these things are. We're so focused on the body. Forget it. The body gets old and it dies. Let it go. Let it go the way of Adam, okay? Because what's important is your soul and your spirit and how powerful those are. Those are the most powerful. I don't know what the word is that I'd like to use. The soul of man is the most powerfully created thing in the universe. This is the problem. This is what Satan had such a problem with. Okay? I got to just read here. Okay. Whose deeds hang on the Lord of the spirits, and the light shall appear to the just and to the chosen who dwell on the earth. Where will be the habitation of the sinners? And where the resting places of those who have denied the Lord of the spirits? It were better had they not been born. Where did you hear that? We've heard that verse before. And when the secrets of the just shall be revealed. That's what we're getting. Then the sinners will be judged, and then impious will be expelled from the presence of the just and chosen. And from that time, those who hold the earth will not be powerful and exalted, nor will they be able to behold the face of the just. For the light of the Lord of the spirits is seen on the face of the holy and just and chosen. And you'll be changed. That's what Paul talks about, this whole rapture. We're going to be changed in a dime. We're going to change and we're going to shine like lights in the firmament. It's going to be no more hidden. And the mighty kings will perish at that time and will be given over into the hands of the just and holy. This is all Bible. And from that time on, no one can ask for mercy from the Lord of the spirits, for their lives have ended. That's what I keep telling people. There's an end game. There's an end game. Grace will end and judgment will begin. And your name better be in the book of life. Because if it's in the book of life, it's sealed. And it will come to pass in these days that the chosen and holy children will descend from the high heavens. All right, I wanted to go back over here because there's so many. Let me read this one now. This is chapter 45. And this is the second parable concerning those who deny the name of the dwelling place of the holy and of the Lord of the spirits. They will not ascend to heaven and will not come on the earth. Such will be the portion of the sinners who deny the name of the Lord of spirits. Where have you heard that? You blasphemy the name of the Lord of the spirits, who are thus preserved to the day of suffering and judgment. On that day, the chosen one, that's Yahushua, Jesus, will sit upon the throne of glory and will choose among their deeds and places without number, and their spirit will become strong in them when they see my chosen one and those who have called upon my holy and glorious name. And on that day I will cause my chosen one, Jesus, to dwell among them, and will transform heaven and make it a blessing and a light eternal. It's right out of Revelation. That's right out of the prophets. And I will transform the earth and make it a blessing, and will cause my chosen ones to dwell thereon, and those who have committed sins and crimes will not step on it. Okay? No unholy thing will go into the temple again. There will be no Canaanite again in the house of the Lord. For I have seen and satisfied with peace my just ones, and I have placed them before me. For the sinners there awaits before me a judgment, that I may destroy them from the face of the earth. Let me go on to this one now. This is the Son of Man. Well, and let me go. And there I saw one who had a head of days, and his head was white like wool, and with him was a second whose countenance was like the appearance of a man, and his countenance was full of agreeableness, like one of the holy angels. And I asked one of the angels who went with me and who showed me all the secrets concerning the Son of Man, who he was and whence he was, and why he goes with the head of days. And he answered and said to me, this is the Son of Man, who has justice, and justice dwells with him, and all the treasuries of secrecy he reveals, because the Lord of the spirits has chosen him. He is the Lamb chosen before the foundations of the world. And his portion overcomes all things before the Lord of the spirits in rectitude to eternity. And this Son of Man, whom thou hast seen, will arouse the kings and mighty from their couches, and the strong from their thrones, and will loosen the bands of the strong, and will break the teeth of the sinners. And he will expel the kings or the judges from their thrones and from their kingdoms. These are not earthly. They don't understand something. This whole thing, when I more understand dualism, the real action is going on in our heart, which is then making this whole thing play out in a subatomic level. If you read it, see, I think this whole thing is inverted. They want us to, I can't go there. I got to keep reading. Okay. And he will expel the countenance of the strong, and shame will fill them. Darkness will be their dwelling place, and worms will become their couches. Now, those are highly apocryphal words. We can unpack those, and I will, because I think I kind of have. But I won't get into that tonight. And these are they who master the stars of heaven and raise their hands against the Most High and tread the earth and live thereon, and all their doing in injustice, and their doing manifest injustice, and their powers in their riches, and their faith is in gods which they have made with their hands, and they have denied the name of the Lord of the spirits. And they will be cast out of the houses of the congregations of the faithful who hang on the name of the Lord of spirits. And in those days the prayer of the just and the blood of the just one ascend from the earth before the Lord of the spirits. In these days the holy ones who dwell in high heaven will unite in one voice and will petition and pray and praise and thank and bless the name of the Lord of the spirits on account of the blood of the just one which had been spilled, and the prayer of the just, that it may not be in vain before the Lord of the spirits, that judgment may be held over them and they not suffer to eternity. And this is when it's been paid for. Okay, and in those days I saw the head of days as he sat upon the throne of his glory, and the books of the living were opened before him, and his whole host, which is in high heaven, and around him stood before him. And the hearts of the holy ones were filled with joy, because the number of justice was fulfilled. The prayers of the just had been heard, and the blood of the just one had been demanded before the Lord of the spirits. And then I saw a place that goes on to much more. But for this purpose he was chosen and hidden before the world was created. And he will be before him to eternity. We're talking about Yeshua HaMashiach. And the wisdom of the Lord of the spirits has revealed him to the holy and the just, for he preserves the portion of the just, because they have hated and despised this world of injustice, and have hated all its deeds and ways in the name of the Lord of the spirits. For in his name they will be saved, and he will be the revenger of their lives. And in those days, I'm going to end with this because I am running out of time, but I have to tell you something. If you can discern in your spirit, if you are a person who hates injustice and hates wickedness and knows that this is not the way it's supposed to be, could be, should be, if you long for a peaceable kingdom where people will live together in peace and in freedom, this is an indication that you're of the just ones. See, there are people who crave evil. They thirst for blood. They just love wickedness and evil deeds. So examine your heart. Search your heart. Get rid of in your heart anything that would cause you to adhere to be drawn to darkness, wickedness, fallenness, depravity, witchcraft, sorceries, mind control, lying, deceit, debauchery, all of these things that are just profit nobody and do great harm, destroy families, destroy young. If you call out to the Lord of the spirits to reveal to you the chosen one who will save you, it's done. You see, I love the word. It's beautiful. But my point is, we have to understand this stuff has been prophesied and has come to pass. It's time now. Because in Enoch, it's very clear the different incursions. Eve in the garden, she was completely raped. We had a genetic infiltration in the garden with Eve. There's a whole bloodline on this planet. This is where this thing started. There's another incursion, watcher angels. We have been at siege. Unfortunately, when God created all these different races, we're not in Kansas, people. Don't try to think it's one big homogenous group out there. We're not. When God created, read Genesis in its Kabbalah understanding, when he created everything, and everything was to reproduce after its kind. But when wickedness entered it, when Satan, he just kept stacking the deck and trying to, it's just a terrible, terrible, terrible history of what wickedness has done. But there is a day of restitution. We're there, people. We're the last generation. It's going to happen. You better learn to love righteousness, yearn for it, and become one of the righteous holy ones by calling upon the name of the chosen one, the Son of Man. Be those who cling onto the Lord of the spirits. By the blood of the Lamb, it's been shed, it's done. He will cleanse you from all unrighteousness. It's just a beautiful thing. So all I can say is it's been prophesied. If you scorn, he says, if you curse what God has said is true and call it a lie, there's a judgment. So what can I say? God bless you. I love you. In Yeshua's name, amen.